Hello, everybody. Well, I should say hi. I don't like the word hello, so I'm trying to work on my language and what I use as terms and correct myself whenever possible. Woke up this morning today with my mind stayed on freedom. How about that? And so this is Christina Laster, coming to help you understand more about the use of words and their meaning, and also how we apply them in our minds and through our actions and ideas. And so today, we're going to be talking about the origins of supreme, a lesson on supremacist ideology, recognition, and avoidance using the word etymology. Right. I'm going to walk you through the word etymology and discuss and guide you into an exploration of the origins of the word supreme and its relationship. Sorry, I'm trying to get my words right. That's why we practice till we master, right? Keep on practicing. Nobody has this stuff down 100%, but we can help each other out by learning. Maybe you have information about science or biology that I don't know. I tend to look at words and etymology, and we can share information and help each other understand better. So please, don't hesitate to invite me to view something that you may be showing. Drop that information in the chat, and definitely we can learn together. So this is going to be a guide into the exploration of the origins of the word supreme and its relationship to supremacist ideology. Okay, the discussion that we're going to have will also emphasize the importance of recognizing and actively rejecting supremacist tendencies in ourselves and in our communities, and provide you with practical strategies for avoiding the perpetuation of these harmful ideas. Through a thoughtful examination of the origins of the word supreme and its implications, we can engage in a deeper understanding of supremacist ideology and its impact on our world. And we can pluck those things out in our minds by the root and decolonize. Okay. So get ready. Like I said, uh, woke up with my mind stayed on freedom. And that's why I put these things out there. So let's start with, I think I got a better understanding on how to use this particular app to share with you guys. So let's start with this. Okay. As you can see, the word etymology, online etymology dictionary is a tool that you can use every single day. And just when you hear words and you just think like, hey, I wonder what the origin of that word is, because why does the word mean this, right? The definition, the origin, just trying to better understand the world around us and the English language, which is totally a whole nother subject that we should talk about another day. But I start to look in the word etymology and put the words in there on the online etymology dictionary. And that's how I typically utilize this tool every day. I wanted to talk about this subject in particular because I watch people observe their behavior and they get upset. Okay. Sometimes it's us, right? Getting upset or even anxious, worried, sick when other people are not listening to what they have to say, right? Or if you have a strong sense of who you are and confidence in who you are, and you don't adopt other people's ideas and beliefs, then suddenly you're ostracized, or they start to become passive aggressive towards you, or all kinds of silly stuff that human beings do because of control, right? And so we don't practice control over other people, even though you see people trying to do it every day. But the best place to be and the most confident place to be for yourself is to control your thoughts, ideas, moods, and behaviors, and not try to usurp control over another human being. You can't. Everyone that has a child, excuse me, my allergies are kind of messed it up. Anyone that has children, you'll get this very quick. very quickly, you will understand that trying to control your own child is difficult, right? And so you have to train and develop, your children, disciple them, discipline them, right? But really trying to fully control that child's will and emotions and thoughts, it's almost impossible. You cannot have full control, right? And so if you notice that, some people will become tyrants to their own kids because they want to control their will, their mood, their emotions, all of that. But this is a whole entire human being with a mind, body, soul, and spirit of their own, right? And so what I do is I teach my children the concept of self control, right? Exercising self control. And I try to practice that as far as I can. Listen, I don't control another person's behavior, but I control me. And so if you read the Hebrew Bible, you'll see that the fruit of the Ruach or Holy Spirit is self control. Part of that is self control. There's other things amongst that, but one main component is self control. So we practice self control around here, and I'm going to teach you how to use word etymologies and understandings to do more of that. All right, so here we have the word supreme, which comes from the Latin supremus, which means highest, utmost, or last. It is defined as being the highest in rank, authority, or power. Okay, so you'll see the Proto Indo European root, upper, over, above, highest, even attributed to supreme being in the 1690s, first attested as God, right? Supreme Court, even, right? Sometimes people hear the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, right? So, you hear this word all around, and I don't know if you've ever thought to break it down, but now we are today, right? And so as you can see on the left, you'll see the word usage, different ways: supremacist, supreme, supremacy, and it all stems from the word supreme, it upper, the Proto-Indo-European. So they're all connected, right? It's just, popular uses. And when they came into existence as a popularly used term or widely used term. And then you have the difference between the nouns and the adjectives. Okay. All right. And so you'll see the word supremacy is again derived from Latin supremus, the same root as supreme, means the state or condition of being supreme or the highest in rank, authority, or power. Okay. And if we break it down, the term even for supremacist, okay, at the top you'll see one who holds supreme authority. Okay. The term supremacist is derived from supremacy. It refers to a person who believes that they or their group are superior to others. And typically we see this based on Eurocentric dominator culture, which then they apply these ideologies to race, ethnicity, religion, or other factors, like if you're poor, or rich, whatever they, derive one who holds supreme authority versus those who do not. Okay. And they may hold these beliefs to the point where they feel justified. Okay. I need you to hear that. These beliefs are so strong in the supremacist mind that they feel justified in mistreating or discriminating against those who they consider inferior. And so this is why I don't like to use the term minority. I don't refer to myself as a minority, and I stop people in their tracks when they call me that, because I'm not a minority. Because whenever you use that minority terminology, they're already setting a placeholder in their minds and attempting to put one in my mind that there is a superior being and I'm not it, right? And so I do not use that term. I admonish you not to allow people to call you a minority, and don't call yourselves a minority, because it automatically connotates that there is someone superior to you as a person, as a human being, as who you are, as the essence of your mind, soul, spirit, and body, right? And typically, in the society that you're being oppressed in, you can automatically know who thinks they're superior while you're inferior. Okay. So watch the use of words very, very closely. All right. So, etymology, just so you know, let me take this back a notch. Etymology is the study of the origin of words and how their meanings have evolved over time. Okay. So when you see PIE, you'll see that that means Proto-Indo-European root meaning. Okay. And at the bottom of this etymology of upper, you'll see the sources of evidence for its existence. Okay. So the etymology as the study of the origin of words and how their meaning has evolved over time. The Latin roots of the word supreme, supremacy, and supremus all have to do with the idea of being the highest or most powerful. This is reflected in the definition of these words, which all relate to the concept of having the most authority or control over something. The most authority or control over something. Okay. It has nothing to do with the word excellence. That's your homework assignment. I want you to go look up excellence and compare it to the word supremacy. Okay. And so there's a difference in action, ideology, and behavior. And so here you see right here, it is the hypothetical source of evidence for its existence is blah. Okay. Sorry, y'all, I got my glasses on too. This doesn't make sense. It is the hypothetical source of evidence for its existence is provided by Sanskrit, apari, Avestan, apari, apari, okay, over, above, beyond. And then you always see the Greek's hands in this stuff and the Latin, you'll see a whole bunch of hands in the manipulation of terminologies. And then most of the time it's Greek, Latin, Old English, and so that gives you an idea of, why some of these word usages were changed and how they came to be. Latin super, above, over, Old English offe, over, German Uber. So think about that. Uber is a product, right? You get in the Uber maybe if you're traveling, or if utilize the app to purchase meals, Uber. You're going to Uber it. So they basically, by the name of their company, put a idea in your mind that they are above, over, dominant, and powerful. And you didn't even know it, right? Gothic ufaro, over, across, ghoulish, burr, and Old Irish for. So you see how that happens really quick? And you don't even know that the words that you're using apply to somebody dominating and controlling, and perhaps you, right? And so you got to be very cautious. Let's look at the popularity. Okay. So from 1800s until 1950, the frequency and the use of this word were pretty much flat. Think about that. Okay. And if you're in the US, you'll know that in the 50s, it makes sense for the rise of this word as we Black folks fought a civil war for justice, I'll call it that, in the streets and the schools and churches and the legislature, right? Which was called the Civil Rights Movement. Have we arrived yet? Okay, we'll talk about that another day. And so suddenly you see in the 50s the rise of the use of the terminology, and it didn't really go back to flat. And I don't have an updated usage beyond 2019, but I'm sure that if we can see the calendar all the way to 2023 and look at the frequency and the usage of the words, we'll probably find that it has went back on the rise. Okay. And so again, I want you to be thinking about this word and go look up the word excellent or excellence to excel and compare the two. This one just solely has to do with control, domination, power, being over or the authority of someone else, right? It doesn't have anything to do with justice, righteousness, or fairness. So stop looking for something that doesn't exist in something else. And no matter what you believe, that doesn't make it true. Find out the truth and control you. Okay? Control you. So we're going to, based on the word etymology of supreme, look at 5 behaviors that you should watch out for. The concept. Oh, sorry, y'all. Okay. So number 1, people who try to force their thoughts onto others are acting in a supremacist manner. The term supreme derives from the Latin supremus, meaning highest in rank or power. By trying to force their opinions on others, these individuals are attempting to assert their dominance over those who do not share their beliefs. Okay? I want you to think about that. Number 2, the concept of supremacy is closely related to the desire for power and control. Okay? Those who feel the need to impose their will on others may be motivated by a desire for dominance rather than a genuine concern for the well-being of those around them. And so you will see people who will even harm their own well-being out of the control and the desire to dominate and have power over others. How many times have you seen someone and they look well one year and then they get this position or this position of authority and they look totally sick and decrepit the next time you see them, like the year later, right? And this desire for the maintenance of another person's mind, will, and emotion and body is literally killing them. How is that power? That's not power in the true or the pure sense, right? Of the power that we read about in the Hebrew Bible. I can think of one verse in particular. The kingdom of Yahweh is of power and not mere talk, right? And I'm sure it's not the kind where you dominate and control and, have authority and usurp your will, desire, and emotions over someone else's. That's loneliness, isolation, and really ultimately, if you're doing that, you don't even control yourself, right? You don't really even control yourself. And it's not confidence, right? Like, I'm confident enough in who I am that I can let you be who you are. And I'm unaffected by that. I can guide and give advice and suggestions, ask for help even, but I'm not going to sit here and usurp power, domination, and control over you. That means you would be the oppressed and I would become the oppressor. We ought not do such things to other human beings. Okay. And so then we will look at number 3. Supremacist individuals often use their beliefs to justify, see that word again, justification, justify discriminatory or oppressive behavior. For example, a person who believes in white supremacy, which we see all throughout, European nations, whether they believe it about themselves or not. Again, we don't control their thoughts and behavior and what they believe about themselves. We control ourselves, right? And what we know to be true. Okay. If people want to live a lie and deception, you let them. That means you can only tell them the truth and allow them time and space to process that. But ultimately, the Most High will reveal that to them. And we just continue to go down our path and control ourselves, because trying to control others will make you sick. You hear? Will make you sick. As a matter of fact, I did some research about cancers and stomach cancers in particular, and it came, there was a lot linked to anxiety and stress and the lack of control of one's life. Check it out. Don't just take what I say at face value. I taught you that in the last lesson. Go do the research. Okay. And so this so-called, a tip to justify, the so-called justification is ludicrous. Okay, a person who believes in white supremacy may feel justified in mistreating individuals who are not white. That's the most ludicrous thought pattern, right? Makes no sense genetically. As we know, eumelanin to be dominant versus recessive. That's their thoughts, their beliefs, and their value system, their moral compass. So you let them perish in it. You understand what I'm saying to you? Okay. We need to have self-control and know what the truth is, and the truth will set you free. All right. And so supremacist thinking can lead to extremist behavior, including violence. When individuals feel that their beliefs are threatened, they may lash out in dangerous ways. This can result in harm to those who do not share their beliefs or values. They want to lay hands on you when you don't agree with dominant culture, so-called dominant society, so-called Eurocentric thought processes. And I'm talking about this from the perspective of being in America, in the Americas, okay? And maybe wherever you're at, it doesn't look like that. And if it doesn't, then go ahead and drop in the chat, so we can know where the Mecca is, okay? Where these things are not happening to us. Just please go ahead and put that in the chat. But when I look at us around the world, these things are constant, perpetuated, justified, all kinds of stuff that's wicked and evil. And so we don't control them, we control us. Okay. And so you see, the justification is going to come. Stay away from that kind of extremist behavior. Do not adopt these mindsets. It's easy when you're born and bred in captivity. I'll call it that. That's the best terminology I have for it. To adopt a mindset. So the reason why I break down words for myself and I'm sharing that technique for you with you is so that I can constantly clean the clutter of colonization out of my own mind and not spread that to my children. Okay. So here you have that the supremacist thinking can lead to extremist behavior, including violence. And it tells you why individuals who feel justified or, hold value and truth to their beliefs, when they feel threatened because you disagree, they will lash out at you in dangerous ways. Or if you're at work and you disagree, they'll control your money, your income, and your ability to earn. Some people try to get other people fired, all kinds of wicked, crazy stuff, right? All because you won't go along to get along and agree with them. And so we reject the notion of going along to getting along. And you know what? God already made one of them. I don't need to be them. I'm going to be me. I mean, some people might beg to differ about that, but whatever. I don't need to be and assimilate and mimic someone else's behavior. There's only one you. You're unique. Be yourself. Don't mimic other people's behavior. Okay, so I went off on a whole tangent about that, but that's just where my heart is, to help my people. All right. Now, you remember that the word etymology is the study of the origin of words and how, okay, pay attention, their meanings have evolved over time. Okay. So again, I'm going to repeat the Latin roots of the words supreme, supremacy, and supremacist all have to do with the idea of being the highest or most powerful. This is reflected in the definitions of these words and the concepts of having the most authority or control over something or someone, which is not the righteous thing to do, right? So when you are listening to people and allowing them to have this kind of authority and control over you, and when you see them in their behavior of anger and hostility and violence, and they justify this type of stuff, then and you don't push back, you're allowing them to erect themselves as a somewhat of a god in your life. Who are they? You don't have to adopt their ideas and beliefs and practices, right? So remember that. All right, and so we're going to here we go. Sorry, y'all. Oh no, that was the right thing. um People, apparently I forgot number 5. um People who try to force their thoughts and others may be operating. Okay, let me read that again. Okay, and I wrote all this, and so um people who try to force their thoughts onto others may be operating from a place of fear or insecurity. By attempting to control the thoughts and actions of others, they may be seeking to validate their own worldview and beliefs. Okay, which is true. Which is true. If I have to force you to think the way that I think, and I have to control your thoughts and actions, then I must be trying to prove myself right, right? And what I think and how I live and all of these other things that if I'm trying to force you, which I'm not, to believe like me and think like me. But again, we don't need no clones. I want you to be I'm confident enough, because like that is a lack of security and confidence. That person is definitely insecure and should seek help. And then living in a place of fear, like I said, is what ultimately makes people sick from not being able to control other people. And you see it, like people's hair falling out, like they got stomach issues, biting their nails, all kinds of crazy stuff, just from lacking control over another. Okay, control yourself. If you understood control in the sense of self-control and practice that every single day and mastered that every single day, like I control me best, right? And teach that to your children. Like when my children do something, I'm like, how did you practice self-control? Right? And that's my first question, and they'll tell you. My mom's gonna ask, did we practice self-control? Did I control my mood, my emotions, and my behavior? And then second, how did you respond? Right? When something happens to you, what was your response? Because that's what you control. Okay? And so people that don't have confidence are going to operate out of anxiety, worry, fear, and they'll burden you, honey. Listen, if you don't recognize it and you don't tell them I practice self-control, I don't know, what about you, but I'm practicing self control. I don't control that situation, nor do I desire to. They'll continue to worry you. And so, like I said, I woke up with my mind stayed on freedom, and I mean that. And if I have to free myself from the bondage of another person's thoughts, I'm going to do it every time. And so should you, because you're not going to project your will, desires, emotions, values, and beliefs onto me. Go do that in your corner of control. Okay. And so when you do this, it doesn't make you popular, but it definitely makes you healthy. Stay away from unhealthy people. I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay. All right. So, based on the etymology of the word supreme, here are 5 ways. See, I'm going to help you understand some ways, and you can apply them, or you can think of your own, right? You know yourself best. So think of which ways you want to do this. But here are 5 ways as a baseline standard to recognize people who may be trying to control your thoughts and ideas. Okay. Number 1, they are quick. And I'm talking like super quick, right? Um, to dismiss or minimize alternate points of view. Like, you can't even get a thought out of your mind and out of your mouth before they say, no, that's not the way it is. What? Like, how are you minimizing what I'm saying? Trying to diminish it. And sometimes it's even where you can have an idea that you're sharing, and somebody will say, oh, that's not going to work, or we've already tried that, that doesn't work, right? Or nah, that doesn't sound like it's part of the plan we have for today, like diminishing it. And then, it's really interesting, because I found that the same people that try to diminish and minimize, in the past times, right, when I didn't have this thing down, I took some observations, and you walk away feeling horrible, like, what the heck, like, it's intended to make you feel horrible, right? And then you see the same people that were quick to dismiss or minimize your point of view, adopt them as their own. And you're like, interesting, you know very, very interesting. Like, that form of so-called supremacist ideology or thought process. So a lot of it, you see also with the terminology I know you've heard before, which is like gaslighting, right? um where people will try to make you feel like you're crazy or you have a problem for bringing something up. That's a form of dismissing you or minimizing your point of view. Like, that is a direct way to say to you, what you just said don't matter to us. What we say matters. That's it. Okay. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to that. And avoid it, right? This is all so that you can learn how to avoid some of these things that are harmful to you and your psyche, right? Because look, at the end of the day, again, and I'm going to repeat this over and over and over, we control our mood, our behavior, our ideas and thoughts, right? We don't have to give other people our ideas and thoughts and then ask them to vet them and how do they feel about them. Look, you can ask for wise counsel, and definitely I would admonish you to do that, right? Seek wise counsel, not a problem. Go ahead and do that. And but make sure that that person is applying the same things that they're basically counseling you about. Don't just accept it, and then this person's giving you all this information, and then they're not even applying what they're telling you. Like, be careful about that. Give me 1 second, I have some feedback. I'll be right back. I gotta get rid of this. All right. Well, I thought I fixed it. 1 second. Okay. If you guys can hear me and you're, put a one in the chat. I don't know. I think that I got rid of it, but anyway, I hope that I did. I'm hoping that there's no feedback. I still hear a little slight echo. But I don't think it's enough to do anything. There was another device that, sometimes with StreamYard, you have to make sure that you close all of the boxes. Like, say, for instance, you're using it. So that we're taking a whole nother route here, just talking about this real quick. But say, for instance, you have a couple boxes open, you have to make sure like you sign out of all of them. And yeah, so hopefully you are paying attention to these things when they happen, and then learning from your experiences, because that's the way that I've learned about technology is like, okay, let me just try to practice this thing until I figure it out, read some instructions, or sometimes I'll watch YouTube University, find out some stuff about what I'm doing, and then I just got to go practice it again. And so this is one of those situations where I'm using StreamYard and I have to continuously practice, and by the time I get it mastered, they'll probably update some of the settings, and then I'll be like, what in the heck? Anyway, let's talk about number two, right? They frequently use manipulative tactics such as guilt tripping or fear mongering to get their way, right? And so you don't want to be around people who feel the need or desire to manipulate you into getting something done, or to fear monger, right? Why do you need to be threatened, intimidated, and bullied into action? Listen, if you really want to see someone do well and thrive and take advice or do their job effectively, then you will give them the right conditions and tools, and in order to foster that level of productivity. Okay, you'll give them the right tools, put them in the right setting and environment, and just know that they're going to take off, right? I've seen this a few times, with me training other people or directing other people, because my supervisor style is leading by example, not per se wanting to tell people what to do, though I've had to, right? If they're not doing their job and your director or supervisor, then I'm going to have to instruct you on, this is your assignment, this is what you're supposed to be doing, here are some ways to do it, please get it done. Okay. But it's not one of those things where I need to use force, intimidation, bullying, putting people down. I don't know how many supervisors or either CEOs and presidents of organizations or so-called leaders who are insecure, who lack confidence, because they try to get in other people's heads by putting them down. And they know how to recognize weak-minded individuals who accept that kind of behavior, right? And they know how to do it by even initially giving you all this praise and all these gifts and all these other things that they think you'll like, and then suddenly breaking you down, like trying to break your spirit and your emotions. It's almost like a marketing Ponzi thing, right? Where you get these phone calls and they say, oh, come and buy this timeshare, come and do this presentation, and we have all of these wonderful gifts for you. And in the beginning, like, you're showered with all these gifts. And then when they say, hey, you're doing such a great job, do you want to sign someone else on? And then It's almost like the more people you sign on, the less you'll get the gifts that you got in the beginning, right? The less you'll get the recognition that you got in the beginning. And they start to actually, um, extract from you in a way that you're sitting there left thinking, what happened? I thought I was appreciated and valued. And they know that human nature is to seek the first thing that you got. So you're spending your time now doing their bidding and their job of what they initially wanted anyway, but hid it from you, right? All to seek that first thing of gifting and praise and appreciation and value. And that's all a part of some Ponzi scheme. So let me tell you something. If you're hooked and trapped in a job like that, you're in a Ponzi scheme, honey. Okay. Pyramid, call it what you want to. Okay. And you need to really observe what kind of web you've gotten stuck in and get yourself out. Because again, you don't control that person over there sitting in whatever cubicle, your boss, none of that. You control you, right? And so we can choose not to stay bound and stuck. We can liberate ourselves. All right. And I just wanted to share that with you because look, it happens all the time. Your first, they pat you on the back, you're doing an amazing job, put you up in front of everybody, give you an award, and then the next time you know it's like they're making these unrealistic demands and putting you down, and all of that is meant to bind you to their thoughts, their ideas, their concepts, their agenda, that job, and to force produce out of you. I want you to think it out of like this. If you read the Hebrew Bible, you'll recognize that when Moses went to Pharaoh and said, "Let my people go," the first thing that Pharaoh did was to assign taskmasters over them to increase their burdens, right? Now they still had to produce, right? But now their productivity was looked at, it had to be increased. They had to work harder. They had to get, be harder to produce, right? Beat them down harder, make them still produce. Okay. So then the people in turn got mad at Pharaoh for asking for their freedom and their liberation because now Massa Boss just gave us more work and is being more of a tyrant and dominating us. And we was okay when we could go home early and eat leeks and onions. Okay. But now we gotta, double up. And they doubled up their oppression of us in enslavement protocols, and now we gotta double up and produce. Some people have studied that technique and that tactic, and they know how to force you into production. Okay. So they'll set taskmasters over you to oppress you and afflict you. And they know that your response is still going to be one of productivity. Watch them. Anyway, they may try to isolate or ostracize those who disagree with them. Okay. Talking about people who have a supremacist ideology and your recognition of what that looks like and avoiding those people. Okay. And so, we hear this all the time when we're talking about cartography. Who owns what land and what land is what size, and having a supremacist idea of making another land smaller than what it actually is to project false ideas and beliefs and ideologies, right? I said ideas. Okay, I repeated myself. Onto others by withholding the truth and giving lies. And we also see this in, when we're hearing about relations, right? Like I live in California. Let me tell you how close the border is from the so-called US border right here, Mexico from San Diego. Okay. So, I used to visit Mexico as a child, quite frequently, actually. And as a child, I didn't understand the division. I didn't understand that we're now exiting, you know, there's signs and there's customs, right? But when it's kind of, some part of your protocol, you don't really think about it till you get older and you can recognize these things. And I'm thinking, wow, we can walk through one gate on one land and then, exit in another. And so you'll hear this in the divisive type of, things that the dominant culture media projects or says, but if you haven't been there yourself, you'll be susceptible to believing what they're saying. Okay. And then you'll fall susceptible to letting the division in your mind establish itself in a us versus them type of way that supremacists think. And you don't even know these people that they're talking about, right? You haven't even had the opportunity to experience for yourself the land or the people. And then suddenly you're adopting their beliefs and ideas about them. Be careful. Be careful about that. Okay. Um, Again, and I think I did it early. That was supposed to be for the last one, but we'll ad lib here. They may use us versus them language to create a sense of division and hostility. Okay, they may use us versus them language. Okay, and number 3 was they try to isolate and ostracize those who agree with them. Okay, you see this at work. Okay, you see this at work when it's how do I put this? Well, I'm just gonna say it the way it is. You have like this colored only drinking fountain, right? Versus the whites only section. Like there's natural, like you see this happening all around you. Even at school, there's a book. There's a book that's called "Why Are All the Black Kids Sitting Together in the Cafeteria?" I believe I said that title right. Let me look it up because I don't want to do any injustice to the author. It says, "Why are all of the black children?" Let's see. I'm one of, and I read parts of it, and I saw some of the lectures, and I was like, that's true. And it wasn't because they lacked confidence; it was because other people lacked confidence to go be with them, right? And so I like the way that the author addresses this because it's not blamed. Yeah, why are all the black kids sitting together in the cafeteria? And the author on that is, let's see, you can find it on YouTube University too. Beverly Daniel Tatum, Dr. Beverly Daniel Tatum wrote this book. Why are all the black kids sitting together in the cafeteria? And if you have some time, I think you should listen to it. It's on audiobook or read it because literally this is what you see. You know, when you go to work after you leave school, you'll see the same thing happening. You'll see the same thing happening. And it wasn't so much that we were trying to avoid people as much as they were trying and have been trying to avoid us. And that is also another way that you see supremacist ideas come to the surface, right? Where they believe that, you know, their thoughts, their ways, their values, their looks, all of that are supreme and ours are to be avoided. They may use us versus them language to create a sense of division and hostility. I said that when it comes to cartography and also, people that are not of their thought process or dominate culture looks or, ideas and are, easy targets, right? And if you haven't went to the other land, then you don't know if what's being said is true. Let's move on. They may become defensive or hostile when confronted with opposing views. Okay. So this is something I'm gonna spend a little time on. How many times I've been in meetings with white women, so-called liberals and progressives. They're at the head of organizations. They so-called claim, you know, that they're there to empower women. We're going to be the ones to make it happen, right? and to be quick to dismiss your ideas, quick to become defensive and hostile when confronted with the truth, right? Or something that isn't directly their agenda, right? Like, think about that. Think about how much energy does it take. And that's so I call what they do blackface. Like, they want to go and in the non-profit industrial complex is really, really big on this. Let's go get Black folks to target our messaging, send our messaging out. And if you look at the board of these organizations, they don't look nothing like what they claim to be doing. Okay. And then a lot of times you'll see the organizations turn over leadership over and over and over again. And when you see people that look like you, honey, and where I got my afro too, leaving, it's for this particular reason right here, because the liberal progressive agenda is just as oppressive, demoralizing, and anti diversity or anti-black, call it what you want to, as another extremist ideology camp, except for they do it with a smile on their face, and then you turn around and you see the effects and the impact of perpetuating their agenda and ideals to basically keep them in power, right? To keep them as an authority, to keep them as the so-called liberal progressive supremacists. So don't let them live vicariously through you and promise you a whole lot and produce little to nothing, unless it's to secure their power base, their privilege base, their housing, economics, finances, all of that. Think about it. Why would you go and give away your intellect to the nonprofit industrial complex, and you're making, a couple $1,000s, whatever that may be, and they're making millions off of your ideas? Go farm your own entity. Okay. And anybody that tells you can't do it is trying to keep you bound to their way of doing things. Free yourself. I remember when I was younger, Fantasia sung a song, go ahead and free yourself. Okay. That's for real. Right. You let them free themselves, but you free yourself too. Okay. Don't stay stuck and bound to these types of practices and these types of behavior. Then it kind of perpetuates the idea that you don't think much of yourself, right? That you don't think much of yourself. I mean, I'm not telling you to think more highly of yourself than you ought, but at least have enough confidence in know who you are, so that nobody can give you a narrative or dictate that to you, and teach your children who they are. Okay. Here are 5 reasons why these individuals are dangerous and should definitely be avoided. Let's go. They may undermine your autonomy and self-determination. Okay. Self-determination, your ability to be free, to be yourself, to be unique, to be an individual. They're going to try to undermine that. Okay. They may stifle creativity and innovation, right? What did I say earlier? When you have an idea, there's dismiss it, diminish it, devalue it, like, oh, that's not going to work, right? And then go steal it. I've seen it happen all the time, y'all. I mean, this is something that I'm sharing with you guys. And if you have the recognition of some of these things, know that in the future, avoid them. Avoid them. Okay. They may create a hostile or oppressive environment in which certain individuals are marginalized or oppressed. Talking about supremacist ideology, recognition and avoidance, the origins of supreme, and the word etymology usage, and behavior behind it, right? They may create a hostile or oppressive environment in which certain individuals are marginalized or oppressed. Get our babies out of there. Get our babies out of there. That's what I'm gonna say. Stop trying to think you can heal their mood, their will, and their behavior, right? I'm talking about the people that believe this way, the supremacist ideology. And then this is the thing that I gotta say something about this. I talk to parents and tell them this is what's happening, right? And they say, well, I want my child to be competitive. You want your child to be competitive, so you leave them in school where they're getting beat upside the head and oppressed and literally losing themselves every day, shutting down, having all kind of illnesses, stressed out as a child. And why would you want them to learn and adopt the ways of the oppressor anyway? What makes their education supreme? Or would you prefer excellence? You have to challenge yourself with your thought process, because generationally we did things out of habit and never questioned things. And this is intended to decolonize your mind. Okay. Who told you that that was acceptable to drop your kids off to your enemy? To those who are going to oppress them and allow them to be in oppressive environments where the other children are learning how to be oppressors. Okay. Your child's learning how to be the oppressed, and the other children are learning how to be oppressors. So then you have this perpetuated on and on and on and on and on generationally. They may promote narrow-mindedness and intolerance. I don't have to explain much about that. You see what it is. Okay? You see what it is. And they may incite violence or hatred towards those who do not share the beliefs. 5 reasons why these individuals with supremacist ideology are dangerous and should be avoided. Okay? Now, here are 5 things that you can do every day to fortify yourselves. Avoid allowing others control and domination of your thoughts and actions. I should fix that. Sorry, but now it's already up, so we'll just go with it. Okay. 5 things that you can do every day to avoid allowing others this type of control and domination over your will, mind, and emotions, which, in all actuality, it really shouldn't be that way anyway, because if we practice self-control, again, I'm going to go back to this every single time. If we practice self-control, right, and we really are serious about controlling ourselves, we would be able to recognize easily when someone else is trying to control them, don't you think? Control you, right? Like, it's almost like the metaphor about the banker. The banker knows a counterfeit easily because guess what? They deal with real money all day and can recognize the fake right away. Well, that's the same thing about self-control. Okay. If you practice self-control all the time, and that's a value that you have in your life, and you teach it to your children, and you're not straying from that idea or concept of I control me, that's it, I control what happens in my life and in my household, then you are going to recognize when someone is trying to get in and take over, don't you think? Like, I mean, it's just one of those things where you should be able to notice, because you've already been practicing self-control, and no one else should be able to come in and trick you into giving up your um self-control and your autonomy and your self-determination and all of those wonderful things that we value. All right, and so then let's go to number 1. Okay, so here are the ways that you can fortify yourself um and not allow for someone to dominate or control your thoughts, your wills, your emotions, your life, right? Your mind starts in the mind. Take control of yourself, your mind, your thinking. Okay. Some of that we have to decolonize, right? Number 1, engage in critical thinking and research to develop your own opinions and beliefs. How do you know if you was born in bred in captivity what freedom truly is? When someone's saying this is liberty and justice and the pursuit of happiness, and then giving you a definition while you're oppressed, right? But this is what you're surrounded by. And so you're using the master's tools to fight the master. It doesn't work that way. The oppressor's tools to fight the oppressor. right? And so if your enemy taught you everything there is to know about him, do you really recognize your enemy? And are you really going to fight your enemy at that point, right? If your enemy taught you everything that there is to know about him, then are you really looking at your enemy from a true perspective? I think not. So my behavior looks like engaging in critical thinking and research that is done outside of the land where I'm being held captive or oppressed, right? I call it captivity, born and bred into captivity, because that's true. That's the reality of the situation, right? So my critical thinking and research looks like looking at what other nations are saying, and their thoughts, and their research, and watching lectures, reading books, and all of these other things, looking even at other constitutions and laws and codes, and seeing how other governance structures happen. But that might not be your forte, right? You might be involved in some scientific stuff, or that you want to look at land, right? Like who controls the land, and the art of map making, cartography, right? Or even wild animals, like how did these trees and these animals get from one place to another? Well, then engage in critical thinking and research to develop your opinions and beliefs about it, and don't let anyone diminish that. If it's evidence based, I use a biblical based standard first, right? Instead of a worldview. Then you do that, and you don't let people diminish that, and try to tell you, like, no, that doesn't sound right, right? It may not sound right to them. Tell them to control themselves. Okay. All right. And so surround yourself with people who foster wisdom and discernment. Okay. There's one thing about having wisdom, but there's also something about have wisdom and discernment. Being able, and I pray for this every day, like being able to discern those individuals that may be trying to just deceive me, or trying to get me to go with their agenda, that's anti-biblical, right? Or even, how can I help this person? People come to me for help, like, okay, I pray to Abba Father, well, how can I help them, right? And that requires wisdom and discernment. So surround yourself with people who foster wisdom and discernment. If you think of what is the opposite of wisdom and discernment, you see foolishness. Foolishness is in direct opposition. Okay, being around fools will get you killed. Okay, I'm saying that for real. So avoid foolish people. They're in direct opposition to the spirit of wisdom and to having understanding and discernment. They just do stuff. The book of Proverbs speaks clearly about fools. Okay. Don't be afraid to push back against individuals who are trying to control you, right? Please don't, right? Like, you have to be able to say, that's your opinion, your beliefs, and your ideas. However, I may think they're wrong. I'm just saying, you don't got to agree with me, and I ain't got to agree with you. As a matter of fact, I don't want to come into a wicked covenant agreement with you, because, there's some stuff off right there. And you don't got to quite say it like that, but this is just my mentality. Like, there's some people that have ideas and beliefs that I don't want to agree with, and I don't have to, because I control my mind, will, and emotions, and I surrender those to the Most High for His guidance, and understanding, and kingdom principles. But at the same time, it's like, why does it even get them so upset? And then why should you be afraid about them being upset? The fear of man will prove to be a snare, a trap. Okay. The fear of man will prove to be a trap. And that's one of those proverbs. So don't be afraid to push back against individuals who are trying to control you. Be mindful of manipulative tactics and language, and try not to be swayed by fear or guilt. I see a church sometimes on every corner. No kidding. And I be thinking in my mind, I wonder how many people actually got saved in this neighborhood, because it looks dilapidated. It looks like, we got stuff going on the corner, at the end of the street. You got, kids who are being failed in the schools, still sitting over there stuck in failing education systems. You got fatherlessness. Nobody's protecting the widows, the orphans, and the fathers, but you got 10 churches on in a 2-mile radius. Come on. Really? Somebody say something. Say something that's true, right? How long is it going to take for the people to get saved? I mean, I'm just asking, right? And so all of this stuff, and there's no fight from the churches for the fatherless, for the orphans, which I call the children who have been taken by Department of Children's Services and Child Protective Services. There's nobody showing up for them. I know, because I'm there. That's part of what I do, right? That's part of the work that I do. And I do it when the parents call and ask for someone to advocate and they've had nobody in their state. I want you to just think about that. They've exhausted every single avenue of help to help their child, and nobody in their state shows up. And so I do this from where I'm at in California, all across this nation, for the fatherless, the orphans, and the widows. And I'm going to need people to challenge and question their mentalities about where do we go wrong. And then after you do that, control your behavior and then go show up as a biblical mandate to care for the fatherless, orphans, and widows. And if there's a church on every corner where there's fatherless, orphans, and widows, and they're not taking care of them, you need to tell them to shut the doors until they do something different. Okay? Because we've been hoodwinked and bamboozled. Do this, pay your tithes, pay your offering, pay your this. And then, but wait a minute, people give up their whole lives and livelihoods, and I don't see that same energy return, and that same, compassion, that same passion when you asking for money versus when you serving the fatherless, orphans, and widows. And so I'm not going to go off on that today, but as you know, be mindful of manipulative tactics and languages and try not to be swayed by fear or guilt. Okay? Pay attention, please. And don't do things as a creature of habit just because your mama and them did it and, I need to do it. No, you need to be wise and discerning. Okay. Remember that everyone has their own opinions and beliefs, and many of those who may be different views than your own. And so as you can see here, wisdom is justified of her children. I love this in the book of Luke and Matthew. Wisdom is vindicated by her children, it says in the book of Luke. But I love that wisdom is justified by or of her children. Okay. And so seek wisdom every single day. Seek wisdom. Like, to me, it's like when I first wake up, I read a chapter of Proverbs. My kids do too. Teach this to your children. So like today's May 29th, I will read, since there's 31 Proverbs, we will read the book of Proverbs 29, chapter 29, and just really throughout the day be thinking about how to apply that wisdom and how to just directly oppose foolishness. All right. And so I hope that this has been helpful. You can always find me on my page here or support the work at boldentities.com. And I will see you again. Put your comments in the chat if there's something that you want me to cover. Thanks for your patience while I navigate through the technology. And again, you have been listening to the discussion that I brought about the origins of supremacy or supremacist or supreme, a lesson on supremacist ideology, recognition, and avoidance. And for a minute, I got stuck there because the birds were chirping outside of my window. It's been great talking to y'all. I'll see you again soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. The masses have never thirsted after truth. They turn aside from evidence that is not to their taste, preferring to defy error. The masses have never thirsted after truth. They turn aside from evidence that is not to their taste, preferring to defy error if error seduced them. Whoever can supply them with illusions is easily their master. Whoever attempts to destroy their illusions is easily their victim.